What's up, my fellow mentors? Welcome to another beautiful episode. On this episode, we're talking space business. So if that didn't get your phones down and your ears up, I don't know what will. I'm on this one with a really good friend of mine who's been in the space business for quite some time. We're going to talk about the three billionaires competing for space, what space business looks like right now, and how do you even get into space business. So I'm super excited. But on this episode, like I said, good friend of mine. He's a former Army intelligence officer, security officer, most recently a CIA officer supporting the National Space Council and the Joint Staff, the Office of the Secretary of Defense. He holds 2 master's degrees, one in intelligence studies, one in international relations and affairs from American University. Tim is the author of the book Humanity in Space and of various articles about the expanse of our civilization in space. His next challenge and mission is to create a backbone of America's next century in space. He's the founder of the Foundation for the Future, and I'm happy and honored to introduce a good friend of mine, Tim Chrisman. Thank you so much for joining me on the show, brother.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. And I continue to use the title founder because that next to Foundation for the Future gives me great delight when I'm introduced.
And it's a tongue twister, too. No, founder of Foundation for the Future.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is for me.
It's funny that you realized that. I wasn't sure that you did, and I love it.
I'm an internet troll at heart.
It's like Elon's new title. What did he call himself? The Techno Master or something like that?
Yeah.
Love it. You know, smooth transition into Elon. What is going on with space right now? What is, what the landscape of this thing look like? And let's just start there. Like, what are we doing in space?
Yeah, so it is an exciting time to be anywhere near space right now. It feels a lot like space has turned into the internet of the late 1990s, where if we can plug it in, or in this case, we can add space to something, it's cool, it's hip. The great thing about where we're at in space versus the sort of internet of the 90s is we've got these 3 billionaires who are essentially competing with each other for who can get the biggest prize in space. And where just 10 years ago, it was the US government funding all space development pretty much. Now we've got $10+ billion being invested from VCs and outside investors, plus these billionaires. And so it really is a true commercial ecosystem that's not fully dependent on the government, and it's the trends reversing. And so we're really seeing an explosion of activity.
Yeah, and it's amazing watching the progress that's happening now versus what NASA was doing. Because prior to this, there's not much direct profit from space. This is all investment and possibilities in the future. And I know each billionaire kind of has their own little stake in what they see that profit looking like. Elon wants to go to Mars. I think Brunson wants to space tourism, I think, is his thing. So, what does that look like for these billionaires and for the business of space? Where are the profits going to come, and how far do you think we are from that happening?
Yeah, so what's really interesting is we've had almost 70 years since Apollo, and you're right, it's been what seems like this slow grind until now, last couple years, really. And it is still, for the most part, a downward-facing industry. Anything going into space needs to look at the Earth in order to have a customer. There's nobody living, working, and buying things in space right now. But
not yet.
I think Jeff Bezos said it best when he was talking about when he founded Amazon. He said, look, I didn't do this on my own. I built Amazon on federally funded roads with local power utilities. Like, there was a backbone that I could build off of, and that's how Amazon became successful. And we've seen that replayed, throughout history, where the brave adventurers and explorers show up in a new place. But it's not until you get roads, rails, and sewers that true profit can start happening. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing the foundations being laid for that boring background stuff that then lets entrepreneurs show up, plug in, and get going.
What do those systems look like? I don't even know what, space roads or the equivalent in space is. I guess, the first step is be able to create rockets that are reusable. I mean, that was a big achievement. But, what else is there that's coming that's super exciting for the possibilities of business up there?
Well, so what I'm really excited about is some of the things we take for granted, like navigation. GPS, great thing. Everybody talks about it when they talk space. Doesn't work once you leave orbit. So once you leave orbit, you're back to sailing your ship by the stars, so to speak. And NASA and private people have come up with a out-of-orbit navigation system that essentially we can replicate and use anywhere humanity goes. It uses the stars and regular signals from pulsars. This one type of star, I'm not going to pretend I know what it does, other than it emits a regular signal. They've built a receiver and have an algorithm, and from what they're saying, it's about 300 to 400 million to finalize the algorithm, and then it's just equipping everything with a receiver, and you've got a anywhere in the solar system navigation system, that to me is super exciting. The second thing that's super exciting is advanced materials. So back 50, 100 years ago, aluminum was cool. Everything needed to be made of aluminum. It was light, it was strong, let's make an airplane. Now we've got graphene, and it's really starting to come into its own like aluminum. And whether it's solar panels, satellite bodies, or adding it to asphalt to make it last longer, this is some cool stuff that can be made in a strip mall anywhere in the U.S. You can set up a foundry for like $10 million, sell the product at roughly $10,000 a pound right now. And it's absolutely absurd, the ease and ability to create this, because right now it is still technically challenging to make this work, but we're starting to see companies like Ford adopt it. There's 1 million Mustangs with graphene in them driving around now.
This might be off topic, but why is this substance, this is super interesting to me, why is this graphene so valuable? And why is it such a huge progress for space travel?
Well, to the first question, why is it so valuable? It's because it's able to conduct electricity while also bearing weight and being about 200 times stronger than steel for tensile strength. And so all of that combines into a material that you can basically make into a car body, rocket body, whatever, that not only conducts electricity, but is also a sensor, is also your solar panel. And so all of a sudden you have the ability to coat whatever it is you're putting it on in color changing paint, solar panel paint, and the like. And right now it's just kind of hard to make. There's not a lot of foundries that can do it around the world. General Graphene is one here in the US. There's a lab in Manchester that's another one. And really the focus has been, how can we take this material out of the lab and into a mass production site? And just last year, MIT did a good study on how to do that. And their answer was pretty easily. Once we can start mass producing the machinery needed, and that looks like it's right around the corner.
Yeah, when there's a demand, people will figure it out. Entrepreneurs will figure it out. And it's funny, all the obstacles that space probably throws at you that people don't think about. Materials, obviously, like re-entry, speed, GPS. I always kind of just assumed if you could figure out how to get to the moon, you could figure out how to replicate whatever we use, like magnet.
Well, but that's the thing.
I had no idea that was an issue. Crazy.
Yeah. Everything we do here, we're going to need there. And it's going to look pretty similar, because at the end of the day, we're just fancy monkeys wearing pants. And so we're going to want a McDonald's and a martini and a working toilet. So
Absolutely. So let's get into some of the fun business aspects to this. Obviously, there's a ton of money being invested in accomplishing all of these different space missions, and space business ventures, they've got to expect to turn a profit at some point. What does that look like? How are they going to profit from this space colonization and space travel?
Yeah, and that is, I host a conference once a month, and Starbridge Capital's one of their partners, Michael Mealing, comes, and this is a VC firm specializing in space. And he says the same thing every month to people who ask, and that is, you have to be insanely diligent about asking the question, who are your customers? Because right now there is such hype around a lot of these different technologies and tools. So the focus then needs to be, how can I make this work on Earth until I can put it in space? And so like this graphene, they put it in Ford Mustangs. Space mining companies, there's a Australian firm that is developing asteroid and lunar mining equipment, but they're using it in Australia. They can process the 10 times as much material with half the labor using these techniques and tools that they develop for space. And so that's where the money really is taking these ideas and needs that are going to be in space and adapting them to harsh environments on the ground, or just figuring out how you can use it anywhere while we're building out the access to, from, and through space.
Yeah, I mean, the problem's clear, especially Elon's probably, I'm not an expert, but 5 to 10 years at least from colonizing Mars or with anything that looks even relatively close to colonization. Yeah. Whereas you've got Branson, who I think is a little bit more practical about his profit model, which is, and granted, I'm not an expert, but he wants to send wealthy folk to space for tourism, who want to go up there and take a look down at the Earth, which I think is we're probably almost there. How soon is that?
That's this year. Branson's taking people up this year. Musk is taking people on a trip around the moon in the next couple years for a similar style trip. And that's
how you fund this thing, baby.
And that is a shameless way to crowdfund further expansion out, because what better way to lower your cost than to make high net worth individuals pay an insane margin? It's a beautiful model.
Beautiful.
I would love to have done this.
So, I mean, if my mind is going crazy right now with questions, I'm pretty sure everyone is. What does that look like? And this is going to happen not only within our lifetime, but I mean, now it's happening. This is here. What are they taking you out of orbit? Are they taking you into orbit? Is it just like into the atmosphere? What does this thing cost? Obviously, the questions are flowing.
Yeah. So for what Branson's doing, you're going into technical space, and so there's a line in the atmosphere, the Kármán line, where above that you're an officially certified astronaut. It's like the old sailor thing. Once you cross the equator, you get a special tattoo. And
zero gravity, whole shebang.
So you get the zero gravity, you get the view of the curvature of the Earth, and get to see how NASA has been fooling us. It's really flat. And then they come back. It's a relatively short trip. What both Bezos and Musk are proposing are multi-day trips, where you either orbit Earth for a couple days or you go to the moon and back for a couple days. The Branson adventure, several $100,000 for that. The out-of-orbit trip to the moon or multi-day, you're looking a few $1 million for that.
Couple $100,000 isn't bad.
No, it's really not.
No. That's my goal. I don't know, but by you or anyone who's listening to this, I would love to go to the moon.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure this is only going to get cheaper.
Oh, yeah. No, and
we're going to the moon, baby.
And there's a couple companies planning hotels in space. Hilton has said they are interested in franchising one of them. I mean, you're not only going to be able to go, you're going to be able to have somewhere nice to stay. Unclear about the Wi-Fi. You will probably have to pay for it extra. But the stays at these.
And you just float around in the hotel there?
Yeah. One of the planned hotels supposed to open in 27. Orbital Fabrication is making it. They're saying 3 million-ish for a weekend stay. So, again, not insane when you think about it. It's a lot, but that's the first.
But a lot of people are going to be able to afford
and that's
this.
it. That's the first sort of early adopter phase, and it's not an absurd amount of money that nobody could ever envision. And that's what's so exciting, is that really does open up the sort of dreams of Apollo that we all grew up thinking were around the corner. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to the moon in our lifetime. That blows my mind. That's unbelievable. So what else is there out there? There's space mining and there's Mars colonization. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit about both of those things, because that's super interesting to me too. What are we going to find up there, and what the hell are we going to do on Mars?
Yeah, well, so if you're Elon, you're going there to basically have a lifeboat for humanity, is I think what he's talking about. But a lot of people's idea of going to Mars or the moon is no different than wanting to go live in a rural environment or climbing Mount Everest. It's that adventure, that challenge, and the thrill that they've done something that no one else could or will. And I think that is in no small part what will drive a lot of those early people. And it has throughout human history. Those were the first in any brave new world. And they will be followed shortly thereafter by the prospectors.
Pioneers.
They're looking for money. They're looking, and it will be there in abundance. Maybe not on Mars, because for the most part, the rare metals that we would want or need aren't there in dense enough quantities. But if we look to asteroids, even fairly close to Earth, between here and Mars, we're looking at single asteroids being worth roughly $20 trillion because of their cobalt, platinum group metals, rare earth metals. Now, those aren't going to necessarily be shot down to Earth, if for no other reason, because it's awkward when someone's shooting down from orbit. Like, we've all seen the movies. This doesn't end well. But now you have the ability to make things in space. Those materials are used in semiconductors and fancy satellite-y equipment. Now we can make it up there. And there's a handful of companies that are prototyping those sort of robotic manufacturing facilities that we feed in one side, and the other end comes out satellite bodies or habitats, or essentially it's a 3D printing drone that goes around and 3D prints you whatever is the theory. Well, they haven't done whatever, but right now they're just...
Yeah, it's crazy. Some of this stuff is here now, and some of it, like this, like sending drones out to the asteroids and creating materials, sounds a little more science fiction-y.
It really does. Yeah.
It does, but it's coming. It's crazy to think about and imagine, and it's super exciting to live when we do.
Oh yeah, no, this is so exciting.
So how did you become the space guy? Were you one of those kids with the planets circling around his crib? Talk to me a little bit about it.
Yeah, some of my earliest memories were so I grew up in Fairbanks, Alaska. Not a lot to do there other than snow, ice, and that's it. So some of my earliest memories were sitting on the couch late at night watching Star Trek with my dad. I would wake up not able to sleep. He'd be watching Star Trek and would tell me to come sit down and watch with him. And I was enraptured not only by William Shatner's acting abilities, but the possibilities, this magical quality that everything looked almost normal. It was so close. It wasn't like Star Wars or fantasy worlds, but it was like this. Somehow I see this being real. And as I went through school, I realized I do not like math. I do not want to do science. I guess space isn't for me. And as I sort of came for full circle after 10 years in Army intelligence, went to the CIA and found out, wait, I can use my ability to digest large amounts of technical information and putting that into reasonable formats. I can apply that to space. I don't need to know the physics. I don't need to be Neil deGrasse Tyson or Stephen Hawking. I just need to be somebody who can read it and understand it and then put it into a pop-up book for the rest of us. And so that's what I did. And I, after about 3 years there, realized I can go bigger. This is not enough. I want to move faster, break more things, and jumpstart the next American century in space, because I don't believe it's real. I know it's possible. I just can't feel it in my bones. And so last summer I started the Foundation for the Future with that goal, unleashing America's future and making space boring enough that we will all believe it's real. And here I am.
So love it. And, you grew up with space as your passion and figured out how a way to turn it into your business. And I see the background right now. You've got a big old planet still hanging over there. The rocket's in the corner. Talk to me a little bit about the Foundation for the Future. What is it that you guys do? I know you said making space boring. How did you make a business of this, and what is your mission?
Yeah, so the Foundation is a space advocacy and education nonprofit, and our niche, because there are dozens of space nonprofits and business groups and advocacy groups, our niche is infrastructure. And we use that term in the investment class terminology, that these are 15 plus year projects that will not be profitable for at least that time, but are going to drive future growth, provide cash flow on the backside. And we are pushing, one of our main goals is creating an investment vehicle for space infrastructure. We believe the federal government has a role in that, to buy down some of the risk, to help offset the costs, as they do land, air, and sea. And so we have a bill that's pending introduction in the House and Senate that would create an infrastructure development corporation and be given the authority to issue bonds and grants and guarantee loans with the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, but be a private organization. The board of directors would be appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate, just like a cabinet position or something else. But other than that, it's a private company. It's listed on a stock exchange. It is told, break stuff, make stuff, go fast. And it's our view that this is the sort of best of both worlds. Government has the ability to assume a lot of risk and be patient waiting for economic growth. And the private sector is really good at making new stuff. But right now we've got billions, if not more, sitting on the sideline in hedge funds, in pension funds, because space is too exotic and wild to put that money in. And so we're going to Congress. Most days it's multiple interactions with Congress people and their staff to make them understand space is now, space is real, and here's how it matters to your constituents, to your states. Even if you're not Florida or California, it matters to Scranton, Pennsylvania, because those mining workers, those manufacturing workers are the ones that are going to be building these things, that are going to be going forth.
Love that. And I love how you touched a little bit about on investing and how, the general public, how I could get involved in space. And I think I was telling you a little bit earlier, recently invested in Virgin Galactic because, from what I thought, they're the only publicly traded space company, and I understand their business model. So my next question to you is, for people like myself who are fascinated by space and see all the possibilities, but don't quite know how to get involved or invest in this massive, potential for the future. Where's a good place to aim your money and aim your efforts and attention?
Well, so one place right now, one of the members of our board of directors is launching a crowdfunding site for space companies. And their pitch is, we do the backside vetting. We're never going to have more than about a dozen companies live at any given time. And you can invest in a piece of that. Most of these companies, as you said, are private. They're billionaires playing with toys. You can't invest in that. And so they are working to open that up, and they're called Spaced Ventures. And that's one way. Another way is doing the sort of playing the mutual fund of, hey, here are space adjacent industries. That's boring. That's what TD Ameritrade's going to tell you to do. And so you can take the route of Virgin, investing there, or you can do what we're doing. Join us.
So sort of what you're talking about is kind of like a space ETF that you guys are creating with all of these private space companies.
Close. It would, except more passive. So the idea is that this space corporation would take a minority position in any investment, a non-voting stake, and be required to bundle its investments with private equity. And so it's a hybrid of a sort of government ETF and a good housekeeping seal of approval for all the wicked rich people who want to invest. But because it's listed on a stock exchange, paying dividends and the like, it has the opportunity for people like you and me to buy in. And that's literally written into the bill that we are pushing, is the stock price must be listed at an accessible price to the average American worker. This cannot, it has to be accessible. And we're using models from the past, like ComSat, Communications Satellite Corporation, where it was a publicly traded company created by the federal government so we could have telecommunications in space. And those shares were $20 a piece. That was it. If it went over, it had to split. And that was a way to ensure that the public had access to a piece of the game.
So is this currently on the market? And if it is, what is the stock ticker?
It's not. We did look at not waiting for government and just saying, screw it, we're going to start this on our own. But the problem we ran into was Congress can't pass a law that explicitly benefits a single company. And so if we stood up this company and then Congress basically bought it out, it would be unconstitutional and sort of work at cross purposes to us. So unfortunately, right now, there is not a stock ticker for it. But we do need some good ideas because I think space is taken or too long. And so, yeah, any ideas from the audience, feel free to let us know.
Yeah, drop them here. I'll be sure to relay them. And let me know when that stock ticker hits. That's exciting. While we're on that, just a real quick, out of personal curiosity, we saw Virgin Galactic sell off like 50% last week because they may have missed some launch date. Do you know anything about that?
No. So Virgin has pretty consistently missed its launch dates. So the last I heard was that there was concern about when they were going to start the sort of passenger service. I'm not remembering the exact sell-off, but that they have consistently been, we're going to launch today or tomorrow or next week.
And I can only imagine all the factors involved in like planning and executing a launch. Like weather's got to be perfect and equipment's got to be triple, quadruple checked and all kinds of craziness.
More often than not, it's getting clearance to fly.
And all the laws and regulations around this stuff, I'm sure they're just making it up as they go. But that's probably a whole other conversation.
It is, and
space pirates.
Yeah, no, and once you see inside baseball, it is crazy, the sorts of things that people are fighting about inside government. It sometimes just feels like we're fighting over the color of stoplights in space. And we need to know what they are. It's important. I don't have the attention span to focus on it, and so it's not for me.
Let this play out with the government. We'll see what pops out the other end. Wrapping this thing up, I've got a couple hard-hitting questions for you if you're ready for them. Okay, number one, what is the biggest, most mind-bending question that you have that is still unanswered about space, and what you hope that we'll learn within our lifetime?
Why is light the speed limit?
Yeah, and for anyone listening, this is a fact that I learned from Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I'm a big fan of. Love the man. Can't go faster than the speed of light. We don't know how, can't track it. Yeah, I don't know. That's just what the universe put there for us, I guess, as an equivalent.
And I like breaking rules, so I want to know how to do that.
And that's what's, I guess, stopping our expansion, other than our age limit, obviously, expanding our reach past our own galaxy, and it's crazy. So we've got to learn how to bend space-time and use wormholes and all the fun stuff that's more science fiction-y. Okay, question number 2. Do aliens exist? Do you think we'll find them within our lifetime, or they'll find us?
I hope they don't find us. I hope we find them, because if they find us, we're screwed.
Maybe they already have.
Maybe they already have. No, undoubtedly we will find alien life. I think we're going to be disappointed when we find out it's like bacteria on some frozen moon somewhere. Then it's going to be really disappointing.
Yeah. But it won't, because that's going to tell us that it's possible and that more advanced life is going to be out there somewhere. Yeah. So super exciting stuff. A lot of exciting stuff that's happening right now in our generation that I'm pumped about. I'm going to the moon by the time I die.
Yep.
For everyone listening, I hope this was a unique twist for you. Tim, for people who want to connect with you, get involved with your mission, what's your call to action, brother?
Yeah. Hey, we are delivering the message that space really does need to be for the rest of us. It's not rocket scientists. It's not billionaires. Who are the welders, the manufacturers, the bartenders, and office workers of space? The answer is my kids, your kids, maybe me. I don't know. But we're opening that up, and we're telling Congress, it's time to put up or shut up. You said you care about American jobs, American economy. We have the potential to unlock decades of growth, sustainable sources of energy and jobs for our lifetimes. It's time to go. And so you can join us. Come to www.f4f.space. That's a letter F, number 4, letter F, .space. Check out the bill we have in front of Congress right now. Check out our monthly conference series. And at the end of the day, we need people like you. We need the ideas of the people who love space, but are pretty sure they're not good enough at math to do anything. You're the people we want and need. So come check us out. Again, f4f.space.
And I'll drop that link right in the caption wherever you're listening to this or watching this, so you don't have to go too far. I'll go, I'm already subscribed to your stuff. I love this stuff, and I'm a passionate space listener. I'm going to add you to my list of space informational stuff right alongside Neil deGrasse Tyson. Whoa. Thank you so much for this awesome show, Tim. Yeah, you're a blast. Space is exciting, and you're welcome to everybody who's listening, because space is freaking exciting, and I love talking about it. I know you love listening to it. And Tim, thanks again.
Thanks, Jay.